Welcome back to Your 1230, the only podcast where our guests tell their story with the help of 12 questions in only 30 minutes. I'm your host, Mike Salitro, and tonight we are excited to be joined by Aaron Trahan. Aaron has 15 plus years progressive background as a senior level executive leader within public company, corporate environments, and early stage startups. Aaron is passionate about personal and leadership development, and most especially helping emerging executive leaders find their path from good to great. As a certified leadership and executive performance coach, Aaron leverages his background and training to support leaders with the implementation of systems, tools, frameworks, programs, and external accountability that allows them to accelerate their path to operating as the best version of themselves and reaching full potential. Aaron, welcome. We are really excited to be speaking with you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. And that bio contains a lot of information and a lot of things that you've accomplished and a lot of things you're helping others do. If you meet someone who's not familiar with your day to day, how do you introduce yourself or how do you tell them what you do?
Yeah, it's the easy approach to that, and the one that I hate the most would say, "Oh, I'm a coach." And that opens up a whole different can of worms, like, "Oh, are you a life coach, spiritual coach?" It was like, "No, no, none of the above." So the way that I kind of like to answer that is, look, I work with leaders who are looking to obtain a new level of success and achievement. And where I step in to help them is find transformational insights that just accelerate the path. So what I do is I give people time back instead of going through kind of the status quo and helping them get to where they want to go at a much quicker rate.
Right. I like that answer. How did you find out that you were good at this?
Ooh, it was a lot of practice actually. And so where I stumbled onto this was, coming to the internal crisis back, 8 to 10 years ago of finding myself in a position of saying, I've got to rebuild everything. I've got to redesign my entire approach. I need help through someone who's been through this before and is now, operating as a coach. And while I was seeking out that help to convert a weakness into a strength, it's funny the way that passions kind of jump up and bite you kind of out of nowhere. And it was a slow and steady gravitational pull that's led me here. But underneath all that was just a hell of a lot of experience reps and kind of going at this over and over again, first as an executive leader, finding out that there was a skill slash interest and passion there. And I just kept pulling on the string. And it eventually led me to a point that I knew that if I didn't start doing something like this on a full-time basis, it would be the thing that I woke up with and regretted 25 years from now.
And that's if you can identify that and it's something to avoid, that the earlier the better. So you describe that as being able to, well, first finding somebody that was serve as your mentor, your coach. How did you find that person, and how do, in general, how do good coaches and good clients get together?
Yeah. I think the first thing that you would want to look for, and the thing that I looked for is, you know, I think the biggest benefit that coaching provides is kind of what I mentioned earlier. It serves as a great accelerator. Um, I kind of look at learning from experience in a reactive way and a proactive way. You can wait until you make all the mistakes and only learn from your own mistakes. That's going to take a lot of time and it's purely reactive. You're purely looking in the rear view mirror around what would I have done differently and how do I learn from that? Or you can turbocharge that process and you can work with someone who has a background that's similar than yours. You develop a good fit, that their style, their approach is very aligned with you, kind of what their specific niche is kind of in the area that you need some developmental help, and can be that learning and thought partnership accelerator that gets you to where you want to go faster. And so, a long winded way of saying, when you can check those boxes, I think it's a pretty good fit and pretty good, at least probability that that relationship, that partnership that it's actually better said, is going to provide real value back to you. Not saying that you can only hire a coach that's been in your position and done what you've done before, but where my focus was and where I'm helping my clients is in a specific realm of their professional careers. And without the experience and the trial and error and the trial by fires that I've had to go through, I just simply wouldn't be as effective as I possibly could be of having the intimate understanding of feeling what they or having felt what they're feeling, having been in their same shoes. So I think looking for someone that's kind of charted a path similar to yours and understanding their story around why they're wanting to do the coaching work they're doing today, I think are all important factors that need to be considered.
That a couple of really excellent points there. I'm going to try to follow up on a couple of them. The first, they were starting at the end. The ability to have experienced what they've gone through, what they're going through, what they may see really helps because one, it can literally, well, in the past, put you in their shoes, and two, the ability to have that credibility that I can relate to what's happening because I had a similar experience. Or the best coaches don't even need to put it that way. They can kind of connect on a level without swapping. I understand what you're going through because I had the same thing. They can kind of talk on a higher plane. But
Right.
the other point I wanted to definitely hit on was the partnership piece. That kind of looking at it as that there's a give and take, and that we're in this together. Um, so
Mm-hmm.
so having the ability to connect with the shared experiences and working on a kind of a partner level, um, how do you identify where uh, either there's opportunity for transformation or for growth, or where your clients want to go? Do they know that, or do you help them find that up front?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think because of my approach, because of my style, because of me really tapping into what I've kind of determined to be a performance mindset, that growth mindset with just a little bit more and having that strong bias for action. All of my clients have a common thread of a strong willingness and desire to reach their next level. And that looks different and unique for everyone. But I think as we all sit here today, I think when we think about our current state, we know that somewhere out there in the future, there is a next better version of ourselves. Some people are working to achieve that harder than others. But I think the common theme with my clients is that's what they're seeking help for. That's what they're seeking that support structure for, is to help them get better faster. And so when I think about the strategic partnership element, what underpins a lot of personal development and leadership development growth is that person that can really help you stretch your thinking, that person that can help you see problems and solutions from a completely different lens, and that person that can challenge even some of your own limiting beliefs, some of those reasons why something can't be done or there's resistance out there. Having that voice that's in your corner that is fully aligned with, there's shared incentives here, and that's to generate results for the client. I think is super helpful because nothing is linear. No one's path is straight up and to the right. There's going to be some obstacles. There's going to be some setbacks. There's going to be some things that just don't go your way. Having that strategic partnership to help you navigate and play co-pilot on that journey is only only beneficial to you to really help make sure you can overcome those obstacles more efficiently and in an optimized way versus allowing some of those things to really create major setbacks that kind of get in the way of you getting to where you want to go.
I like how you talk about not always being straight and to the right, that there are going to be times there are obstacles in front of you, there are things we need to work around, and making sure those obstacles don't turn into setbacks. Is there a story that you share with either someone who is interested in working with you, or kind of this is where we were, this is something that we learned, and here's how we're able to get to the other side of it, that can kind of illustrate what it's like working together, or what your clients can expect results wise?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have an exercise that I like to call my success happiness alignment program. And you know, for a lot of people in the corporate world, you're on the hamster wheel. A lot of people are striving for more money, more title, more status. And sometimes it's good to sit back and reflect and understand more is not a strategy. And if you give up all of your happiness and sacrifice everything to go after that next promotion or that next zero in your bank account or whatever it is, thinking that you're going to find happiness once you have this title or have this number in your bank account, I hate to burst the bubble here, but it rarely works that way. Happiness isn't just something you achieve after you acquire the success you're looking for. So in this particular exercise, what I like to do is everything that I do really starts from building a strong foundation of awareness. When you can understand where you're currently at from an introspective standpoint, it gives you external clarity. And so few people actually sit back and ask themselves two very important questions. One, how am I defining success for myself? Can I put that in an articulate sentence? And then two, what does happiness look like for me? Can I articulate this? And number three, and this is the most important one, is based on how I'm defining those two definitions, do they align or are they in conflict with one another? And if you don't go through the work of understanding what those definitions look like, you have no way of knowing whether they're in conflict or in alignment with one another. And so a quick story on that is I was working with an insurance executive. He was a very hard charging guy, very focused on performance and financial results. And he wanted to be in the top 2% of all agents on a national level through his agencies. So we were walking through that. But once we get to that second question of what happiness looked like, why did he want to achieve that? Because he wanted all the freedom, all the flexibility, the performance that type of agency would generate would give him all the flexibility in the world. But as we started to unpack it, we said, well, what does a top 2% agency look like today? Oh, well, they got a team of probably 50 or 60 people, multiple branches. They're probably working 6 days a week. And I could see that it hit him like a thunderbolt of saying, okay, I get it. To be in the top 2% of anything, I have to be willing to do what the other 98% is not willing to do. Therefore, sacrificing and compromising a lot of the other things on the other side, which is exactly why he was striving to achieve what he was achieving. So it was a good reflection moment there that the exercise provided for us to reframe the goal to make sure we weren't giving up everything on one side to chase something on the other side, just to run the risk of finding out at the very end, I may have had the wrong goal.
It's such a great story because it encompasses the why. Why is this important to you? Why do you want to do it? Why is this something worth putting the extra work in, the extra effort in? But the real kicker there is that if you don't define your target, any kind of endpoint or results will go or will do. And then when you hit, it's like, well, this isn't what I actually wanted, or this might have been what I mentioned or what I expressed, but this is not where I want to be. And just that the story kind of just hits on it perfectly, that if your goals are not aligned with where you want to go, you probably want to change one of the two of them, if not both. So I like that story a lot. You start off by talking about, I'm a coach, and then not doing a good job of describing what you do. I think that that term coach means a lot of different things to different people. But when you've got coach and leadership in your background, one of the big things that you do is work with others, help others become better. Uh, how do you kind of, I don't want to say put aside what might be a strength for you to help others find theirs, but how do you, in that partnership with them, how do you kind of put them first and always work in kind of that lens, or how have you been successful in doing that?
Yeah, I think it all starts with a couple things is having a strong level of curiosity of wanting to kind of go deeper, because the more that you're able to go deeper, the more it's going to pull things out of the client that's going to help them connect dots. It's going to help them have light bulbs turn on. And then I think too is really working on your craft to define a structure that allows clients to generate their own inputs to get to their own outputs. And what I mean by that is when you can very clearly provide a system, provide a, I like to tell my clients all the time is like, what you're getting when you work with me is not me being a dependency at any phase of this. Yes, I have a program. Yes, I have a structure. But when we end our agreement or our contract comes to an end, I want you to feel like you're walking away with a brand new toolkit full of new tools that you're going to be able to use for the rest of your life, regardless of where that takes you. And I think to summarize that all, one of the best compliments to date that I think I've received from a client was he even says like, you don't feel like a coach to me. There's much more of a holistic relationship and partnership that's built there. And I'm a firm believer that we're all, regardless of what your day job is, what your title is, what you do for money, what you do as a profession, we are all the CEOs of our own journeys. There is no higher decision-making authority over our habits, our actions, our routines than we are. And so what this client said to me was, with all that being said, having you is like having a personal chief strategy officer to be beside me as I'm kind of the CEO, kind of navigating my life. And I said, I take that as a great compliment, because I think when I can be there to help work through the different strategic elements of key decisions, prioritizations, alignments around what they're doing on a day in, day out basis that either help them get to where they want to go or could potentially be a distraction from the priorities that need to be in place to get them to where they want to go. So that's a higher level way of, I'm glad that was told to me, because I never really thought of it that way. But when you think about it in a business sense, yeah, I kind of like to view myself as that personal chief strategy officer for my clients.
It's a wonderful compliment, and I might steal chief strategy officer from you because that's really good. Um, I wanted to ask you brought it up, and it's in your bio. Systems, process. I'm a big fan. I'm a supporter. I understand their value. That said, most people hate those terms, don't like to talk about it, and would rather keep doing what they're doing, making the same mistakes, than even think about implementing anything that would uh, resemble anything that's a systematic process. So, how do you get someone to see the value in it is worth maybe tearing something down to rebuild, or taking a step backwards to implement something like that when it does have a resistance built up in some?
Yeah, I think it requires some honest conversations, right? I think goals are great. Inspiration is great. People talk about motivation a lot, and all of those things are good. But if you're looking to achieve something once, maybe twice, that's where a goal can help you. But if you're truly investing in yourself to generate continuous improvement, I mean, we're all playing an infinite game here. When we think about life, when we think about success, when we think about, personal development, there's no finish line here. We're playing an infinite game. And so when you leave things up to chance, or you create these finite finish lines, yeah, you may be able to really put in the work and kind of get there. But then what happens after that? you're likely to fall off pretty hard. How many people have you seen that's had this weight goal? They achieved the weight. It took them 6 months to do it, and they put it all back on within 6 weeks. There were no systems in place. They were goal obsessed, which there's some value to that. Don't get me wrong. But if you're playing the long game, leaving things up to chance and randomness and letting life get in the way is ultimately going to happen. Life has a funny way of just always throwing those curveballs out there at you. And so if you don't have the processes, the routines, the systems in place, it's going to be very, very tough to be consistent. I like to talk about this as anytime I speak to a group, I like to start off by saying, how many in here is motivated? Are you a motivated professional? And of course, all the hands go up. And that's when I come in with the bad news. And the bad news is motivation is a bit of a fraud. And what I mean by that is motivation will tell you up front, it is not there for you full time. It's there only part time. It's only going to show up when all the external variables are right, when things are going well. And when you need it the most is most likely when it won't be there. So if you're dependent on motivation and just that brute force, just chasing the goal, at best, you will be an inconsistent performer. On the other side of that, when you have discipline to operate within a system, you don't need motivation. Motivation is just a bonus. It just makes some days go a little bit better than others, but it's not the determining factor of whether the work gets done. And so I think that's, for me, as rigorous as it may seem, that kind of people may not like, it generates consistent results. It generates the continuous improvement. And if that's what you're looking for, it's going to be damn tough to find it without great systems being in place.
I love that visual because there who's motivated. I am, raise my hand. I'm all excited for it. It's like, well, as inconsistent performer, it's perfect because without it, you're going to falter, and it's not something you can count on. And that it's kind of that extra with when all circumstances, when all things are lined up perfectly, that's when it kicks in. But the discipline, and that's the hard part. Doing the things when you don't want to do it, doing when things are not lined up, doing it when I'm unsure of how this is going to turn out, but I'm disciplined. I'm going to get the results, and I have the courage to try. So that's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the systems takes all the internal debate out of it. When a system is in place and you're disciplined to the system, it really doesn't matter how you feel that morning. It doesn't matter if you wake up with a bit of a scratchy throat, or the kids kept you up that night, or a couple of things didn't go your way in the morning and you just throw out the rest of the day. Discipline keeps you committed to the process that ultimately drives continuous improvement. And without the system, you're up to a lot of variables and a lot of randomness. And the more that gets incorporated into your operating system, the weaker the results you'll be able to generate, because you're constantly fighting against the uncontrollables.
Yeah, I go right to Michael Gerber when you say that if you've got the process in place, you just keep refining, retooling the process. And of course, when you're working with others, there are going to be people involved, but if the process is right, it's so much easier to manage than the personalities or the people, especially when it's yourself. It's like, I woke up today, it's like, I don't want to do this, or I don't feel like, but if you like, no, this is part of my schedule. This is part of what I do on a Wednesday afternoon. You just fine tune that process, and that's kind of where you put the time and where you put the effort in. So that's a good way to kind of bring systems to life, where it's you kind of take that. Do you have the energy? Do you have that motivation today? Somehow we are already coming up on time, so I will I'll ask my last couple questions here. Talked a lot about your professional background, how you're helping others, how you are kind of helping them become their best. How do you stay sharp, or how do you get better at what you do?
Yeah, I challenge myself to be a lifelong learner. Throughout my career, I've seen those that have just continued to be a great student of the game, a great student of their craft. It really comes down to, if you're a lifelong learner, that is the only guaranteed, sustainable competitive advantage you can give yourself for the rest of your career and rest of your life. Um, and so, yeah, I really make sure that I'm a student of my craft. I'm constantly, you look at my podcast, you look at the books that I read, it's all around listening to other experts in the performance field, other coaches. A lot of my podcasts I found are of other coaches doing live coaching sessions with clients live on their podcast. And, a lot of the tools that I have today and continue to get built out and I provide to clients are things that I've kind of pieced together of hearing these other things, match that back up with my formal training and my experience. And it's just, I'm always on the hunt for new ways to help clients generate better results. And I think when you can stay in learning mode, a lot of good things will happen. But on the flip side, it doesn't pay to be the smartest one in the room. I like to tell people, if you're the smartest person in the room, it offers a terrible ROI. There is virtually zero upside to be had, but there's massive downside. And so always look for rooms, always look for meetings, always look for associations, always look for engagements that are lifting you up to a next level. And to do that, what sits underneath that is just stay in learning mode. I can't preach that more by just always try to tap into that beginner's mindset. And famous quote by Charlie Munger, go to bed smarter than when you woke up. And if you can do that for a lot of days in a row, you're going to be all right.
That's the lifelong learner. It's one thing that I can't encourage enough people to get behind, that even as you said with Charlie's quote there, that even if you just pick up one new thing each day, try something different, even if the experience goes horribly, you've probably picked up something that next time I'm not going to do that, or here's how I can incorporate this to make it different whenever I try something similar. One that's really wonderful as kind of the mindset. Kind of the opposite there. How do you relax, unwind? How do you get away from the serious stuff that you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's like my wife and I just got back from vacation in Europe, and I did find myself working a bit, almost on a daily basis while I was there. And I'll answer this in an indirect way, is that when you can stay in learning mode, just like my path to becoming a leadership and performance coach, if you would have asked me 10 years ago if I saw myself doing this today, I would have said, hell no, like literally a 0% chance. That's not happening. Um, but when certain experiences happen, when certain opportunities arise, never be so fixated on a predetermined future that you can't pull on the strings of interest, because an interest can turn into a passion, and a passion can have you operating with a purpose. And when you're operating with a purpose, you're damn near unstoppable. So to bring that all back is when you can continue to stay in that learning mindset, find out where those bugs of interest are biting, and go pull on some threads. Because when you can find something that you care deeply about, and work to everybody else feels a bit like play to you, I think you're finding yourself in a sweet spot. But it can't all be about work. And I totally get that. So I've got two little boys, 1.5 and 3, and spending as absolute much time with those little monsters I possibly can is my single best way to kind of refuel and recharge.
Only as a father of three can I take as the term little monsters and understand exactly what you mean as you say it. So Aaron, we'll wrap up here. Where can our listeners connect with you, learn more, or find out perhaps how to work with you? Where should they do that?
Yeah, I would direct people to two places. The first one would be my website, and that's just performancemindsetcoaching.co. And then separately, I'm highly active on LinkedIn. I try to use LinkedIn as a platform where I can give value back to my community and my connections almost on a daily basis. So if you're there, feel free to reach out. Let's connect. And if nothing else, if there's no interest in us even exchanging any words, I hope my kind of post around leadership and performance adds significant value to us just being associated there. So those are the two places I'm showing up most.
Excellent. So we'll be sure to post both of those. Aaron, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.